Oh, hello, John.
Oh, hello, Dylan. Welcome to the rest of you. Dylan, how are you, Dylan?
I'm good, John. This is Dylan talking. That is John Hastings. We are doing Ole Anderson this week on the Wrestler Review.
Dylan says he wasn't tired before we recorded, and the way he did that intro leads me to believe he hasn't slept in a year. Welcome.
No, I drink a lot of water now, so I get up to pee.
That's just
Do you
aging.
pee?
No.
No?
Before I go to bed, I rip open 8 salt packets and dump them down my throat so I don't get them knife.
You're just yelling kidney stones, kidney stones, kidney stones.
A doctor has walked up to me on the street more than once and just been like, "Whatever you're doing, it's wrong."
Sir, you pissed a solid actual McDonald's French fry. What I'd like to say to you is congratulations, you're a real man.
My diarrhea, the closest example is like, have you ever seen a dog look very concerned about a closed door? That's what my asshole sounds like.
I should address this for the people looking at this.
Are you
doing
in
renovations
your library?
here?
You're in your
Renovations. So what we're doing is I'm recording this from my mother's house with the classic Zoom setup of a bunch of Dean Koontz novels in the background.
Did you drive to your mom's house to record this very podcast?
No, we're staying there on the weekends.
That's smart.
It's very smart. It's very nice.
Dylan, does your mom still
I get treated
you
like a king.
Does your mom still just get a rotisserie chicken for you to eat?
Absolutely. But now I can say it's part of a diet. It's not just a freewheeling thing to do, you know?
It's not just something you do in the afternoon.
I'll say this: fat or skinny, you can fit a rotisserie chicken into your diet.
Goddamn right. Anyone who purchases a grocery store rotisserie chicken and doesn't immediately just put it in the sink, get a fork, and tell everyone to leave the house. Know what you are? You're no friend of mine.
Yeah,
you're no goddamn friend of mine.
If you can just say you're bulking. Oh, I ate a whole chicken. That means I'm bulking.
Yeah. You know what that means? It means I'm fucking ready for what? Whatever comes my way.
I'm ready to lift these weights or sleep.
I challenge you to a difficult shit contest. You, my friend, have yourself a competition.
You know what, man?
Difficult shits.
Go for it.
Let's talk about the jagged shit of humanity that is Alan Ole the Rock Rogowski. I hate Alan Robert Rogowski so much. All of Ole Anderson's stories sound like lies. Every time his version of the story is this. Oh, well, the problem is my dick got caught in 10 women's pussies during an orgy I did not start. And then I just was given $50 for being cool.
Yeah, he's the classic guy of like, he's like, isn't it crazy? I did like 2 days of work and now my shoulders are huge.
Yeah. He's a real, as they say, he's a real Dylan Gott. You know what I mean?
I worked out once, but then they kicked me out of the gym for having too big a dick.
You want to know why I'm not allowed in Australia? They said you're too fucking hot.
I fucked everyone in Australia, including the Prime Minister, who turned into a girl, so it's not gay.
Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing. Ole Anderson, like, everyone's like, Ole Anderson of all the wrestlers being like, who would storm January 6th? Ole Anderson would show up at January 6th and be, you're doing it wrong, pussies.
Yeah.
You're doing it wrong.
This isn't enough.
This isn't racially motivated enough.
He is a crazy guy because he's this mad and he was born in Minnesota.
He's this mad and he was born in Minnesota and his entire life's goal was to just retire at 40, which he did. Like, Ole Anderson is also, of all the wrestlers, has no reason to be angry. Like, it's like, well, how did he get into the business? Well, like all good wrestlers, he was just in the art. There's a few ways you break into wrestling. One, you grow up a fan of being a wrestler. What's the other ways you break into wrestling?
Hot at a gym.
Yep.
Football.
Yep.
Amateur wrestling.
Yep.
Meet Vern Gagne somehow.
That's my favorite one. Is Vern Gagne encounters you in the world.
Literally the only person that Ole Anderson was ever reverential to was Vern Gagne, and Vern Gagne was like, I like the way you tell me my back's strong. You're a wrestling career. I also have a strong back. Well, let's rub these backs together and beat up the British Bulldogs eventually.
Ole, here's the thing to remember about me, Vern Gagne. When you and I make love, that's better. Thing that, by the way, if this is a nail in Ole's coffin, this was not included in the research, but Ole Anderson is the only man I can find on the internet to talk positively about Greg Gagne. Do you understand how you can find more people that are pro-Hitler than are pro-Greg Gagne?
I mean, you can find a lot of people that are pro-Hitler.
There are more Hitler lovers than Greg Gagne lovers. More people like Mike Sanders. More people are upset at the fact that you made fun of Mike Sanders' dead dog than like Greg Gagne.
You know what I like is that Ole Anderson's also a guy that Jim Cornette's like, that guy likes his wrestling old school. Like Jim Cornette's like, he doesn't even think there should be ropes.
Yeah, Jim Cornette's like, for 6 months in the Georgia territory, he tried to get them to wrestle naked. Only because he wanted to be able to cut off Ric Flair's dick.
The Greeks are the original wrestlers. Everything should be Greek.
Also, Ole Anderson, by the way, is the biggest reason for Vince McMahon's success by far.
You think so?
100%.
You're just gonna leave it?
I don't. Okay, well, we're jumping ahead. So, so the Georgia territory, which was the crown jewel of territories, it was where the TBS television was. So basically, everyone talks about like, oh, TBS was a crown jewel. It was just lucky. In Georgia, there was the Turner family that owned all the billboards. Their son Ted went, I'm gonna go into television and also sailing and be very awkward around Jane Fonda after we divorce. And then he does that. How he builds his television empire is he goes, I need 24-hour content. I need to start 5 minutes after every show, and I need that content to be cheap and consistent. He buys the Andy Griffith show to put into syndication, and he puts on wrestling because it's cheap. During that, there's a wrestling war. Ole is brought in. If he wins the wrestling war, he gets a piece of that territory. The territory is owned by Jim Barnett, some other guy, the Briscoes, Ole. Ole doesn't like that Jim Barnett, who is as a controlling interest of that company, takes money out when he's owed money. According to Jim Barnett, according to Ole, he's embezzling money, even though they were so successful. They weren't embezzling money. It was Jim Barnett was the majority owner. He was bonusing himself inappropriately, whatever. Jim Barnett goes to Tokyo to get new suits fitted. Ole causes a coup d'etat. The Briscoes go, we're not working for Ole because Ole's the only wrestler that we've covered on this show that everyone's like, Ole was a bit backwards in his views. Like everyone's just like, do you understand that Ole's the only one where it's like, you know, like
I wish Dick Murdoch was around to be like, now I am literally most of the time in a hood, and even he's weird at Asian restaurants.
Yeah, I wouldn't get all of those words tattooed on my butt and then show them to different people that aren't white and go, pick your word. Pick your word.
Yeah, it's so weird that this guy was like, when
he forces the coup d'etat, the Briscoes leave. This is the important thing. The story always goes, the Briscoes betrayed the NWA, but like the Briscoes always get respect. The reason why the Briscoes left is they were like, we will not own a business with Ole Anderson outright. Fuck this guy. We'll sell to Vince McMahon, and they undercut Ole Anderson as a fuck you to Ole Anderson. That sets up Vince McMahon getting the television, which sets up him getting the money for WrestleMania from Jim Crockett. If Ole doesn't pull that coup d'etat, Vince doesn't get Jim Barnett, which gives him the contacts for all the television shows, and he doesn't get the seed money for WrestleMania. It's a completely different wrestling landscape. And I guarantee Ole Anderson is like, yeah, and does Vince send me 11 hookers to jack me off? No. Does Vince respond to my requests for ice cream cake every concentric Wednesdays? No.
You're exactly right, though. For a guy that started wrestling to retire by 40 and didn't start wrestling at it's not like he started when I'm 20. He started wrestling at 25, and then within 15 years,
he was in the army
out of
before that. I assume he had to leave the army because his own troops were trying to kill him. Like his commanding officer, the second day of basic training, was reprimanded because he took out a gun with live rounds, held it to Ole's head, and was just like, "I have to do this. You're so annoying." And Ole was like, "You're too much of a pussy to fucking shoot." Actually, also, your wife, she's actually been impregnated by me a bunch of times. Probably, I don't know.
Here's the thing: that gun's too new. You should actually kill me with a musket. You have to fill every time you shoot it.
The thing you don't understand about Minnesota is it's actually it's the Athens of now.
It's just so funny that a guy.
The only other person
everyone's like, "Could you want a pie there, Ole?" And he's like, "No, it's fatty and tastes good." Yeah, there's nothing on his childhood here, but I assume he just got punched in the face by his father at 10,
I assume
and
his parents were lovely people, and then he came out. He came out, and instead of crying, he turned around. The first seconds of his life was him shitting in his mom's own pussy. He shat in his mom's pussy as he was.
That happens a lot.
Does it really?
Yeah, and then you're like, we got to get this baby out now.
Yeah. We also got to get somewhere because God, I'm aroused. Said Ole's father.
He's like,
that's how Ole was.
Baby's making me hard. I don't like that.
Yeah, Ole was produced, by the way, because his dad backed up his asshole and took a bunch of shits in his mom's vagina, and then just held it and went, let it cook, let it cook, let it cook. 9 months later, Ole walked out and was like, ugh.
So this is fun because Alan Rogowski and his favorite wrestler was Crusher Lisowski. So it's just like, if it's not exactly Polish, Ole was pissed.
Yeah, if it doesn't rhyme vaguely with his name, Ole does not like it.
Yeah, honestly, the worst thing about Ole Anderson was that his entire wrestling career and why he was so mad was because there was a light bulb in a socket, and he just for his whole life still hasn't been able to screw that in.
That's so funny.
That's a Polish joke.
I don't get it.
They're dumb.
You know what? It's amazing.
Fuck you, you fucking Polish shits. Fuck off.
What is the origin of the name Got? Just sounds cool.
It's a mutt name. It means we like to fuck. It's just everywhere in Europe.
Dylan, in your teenage years, did you jack off in the room that you're in right now?
This is a room. Well, first of all, as our friend Matt O'Brien says, you can tell my parents' age because they do have a dedicated computer room. That is where the computer lives. No, this is not the house I grew up in. This is my mother moved here when I left for college.
Is that because the house that you grew up in, like a home inspector came in and was like, my God, it's like someone dumped 10 gallons of cum into the floorboards. And she was like, what? And he's like,
they were like, the toilet's not refilling with water. That is pure 100% grade A teenager cum.
Yeah. You are aware you're for some reason showering and cum and what I think is spinal fluid. Are you telling me my son's loads are so fat spinal fluid comes out? That's right. He's the jacker.
Yeah. And when he said he's the jacker, he took his sunglasses off like in CSI.
Yeah, he took his sunglasses off and then both of his eyeballs just fell out and shattered.
So Ole got trained by Vern Gagne. How do you think he said that was? He said it was
very good, very good, and then I was the best at it. Yeah, of course, it was very easy.
He tried to stretch me, but I'm too stretchy, so actually I stretched him.
He also claimed, by the way, that his first match was either with Danny Hodge and that it was a shoot, but I was okay for it. By the way, we're exaggerating. No. All of Ole's stories are like, you'd think that would be tough, but I was actually fine. You would think that having cancer and then coming up with a cure for it would be difficult, but I'm Ole Anderson, so it was very easy for me to figure out very quickly.
Yeah, exactly. He probably goes to bed at like 8 a.m. every day, not because he's like an insomniac, but just because he's like, do you think that the darkness is going to defeat me? I win again, and then he just goes to sleep when the sun's out, and he's like, ha.
Also, Ole is a creature of the night. Ole is goth.
I wish Ole Anderson was like, I've discovered who I am and I'm quite nice now. I'm a goth.
Ole Goth Anderson?
Ole Anderson. Him smoking cigarettes at some sort of weird diner with a bunch of teens. Like, this feels good. This is how it is.
So let me get this straight. We hail Satan?
So wait a minute. This Marilyn Manson guy? I like him.
Yeah, wait. So you telling me this Marilyn Manson just dates teenagers and then if he doesn't like them, he puts them in a closet? Sounds like how I treated Tully in '88.
No, of the four horsemen.
Oh, he didn't have a beard, so technically he was either a baby or a small woman.
His favorite of the four horsemen was Tully.
Everything you learn about Ole Anderson, you're just like, well, hate him more.
Who is your best friend in the business? That would be Invader 2. And then, of course, Chris Benoit, the later years.
Yeah, my three closest friends were Crotch Rot, Invader 2, and when Chris Benoit just left me rambling messages about Eddie Guerrero's soul. I like talking about the afterlife. I'm Goth Ole Anderson.
I was
That's
actually
goth.
friends with a lot of football players too. O.J. Simpson, Ray Caruth, and of course, the guy who killed JFK.
I was very, of course, friends with Ray Lewis when he was wearing that white suit and then had to change at the middle of that nightclub appearance for no reason in particular. I'll never forget going to rural Chicago to meet my friend John. He was a nice man who dressed up as a clown on weekends who had a very smelly crawl space.
I do think that he should be a guy on Dark Side of the Ring. Just so every single episode we're like, and that's when Grizzly Smith took advantage of his children. And then
let me say this about Grizzly Smith.
They're your children. You should use them. It's like a cup.
Yeah. Oh, who doesn't want to give a margarita to a 7-year-old?
Ole Anderson just comes out and says that. But in my mind, he's not like, how everyone was like really well framed. He's so far away from the camera, just holding a drink.
Don't get my eyes.
This is only for the people at home. So everyone else is well framed. For the people watching the video for Patreon, this would be Ole Anderson's. Can't figure.
He would refuse to use anything but FaceTime, and it would just be his chin. It would just be this.
Yeah. Oh, let me say this about him though. Like, and it's just like.
Well, Benoit. Here's why he did it. Benoit had lost on TV 2 weeks in a row. He had to get his heat back. That's why he did it.
Let me tell you why. Someone heard that he was crying at Eddie Guerrero's funeral, and it was either kill his wife and kid or not be considered for the Intercontinental Championship.
I'd choose the IC title too.
Yeah, you know my son Brian. I've been grinding up little bits of glass into his food since he was a baby. As it turns out, now he just needs the glass to live.
Here we go. 1967. He comes in the AWA. And he was either Al Rogowski, because remember, the only person that wants you to know anything about Ole Anderson is Ole Anderson, and he,
of course,
in interviews just says different things constantly, or Rock Rogowski, which Rock Rogowski is a much better name than Ole Anderson. But have you seen the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, and you seen Gene Anderson?
Yeah.
Gene Anderson, they're claiming these guys are brothers, and it's like, Gene Anderson he looks like it's his dad.
Well,
and
Gene
he's
Anderson
the most out-of-shape man in the world.
Also looks Italian. Like, Gene Anderson literally looks like an Italian stereotype. Like, he literally looks like he should be saying, like, oh, like Paul Castellano. Like, my name's Gene Anderson, and I'm from Minnesota. The Minnesota section of Brooklyn, bro. Like, that's what Gene Anderson
so
looks
I'm in the fucking Wrecking Crew here, bro. Let me tell you about this. You're a fucking pussy. Right. How about that? You can't say that on TV. You can't say that on TV. I'm Gene Anderson, bitch.
We're going, me and Ole, we're going to go get pizza slices the size of our fucking dicks. That's 10 feet long.
Gene Anderson's great because he looks literally like a harmless guy. And he's like, I'm going to put on my bathing suit. We call it trunks as wrestling. It's a bathing suit. We can all be friends, guys.
Amazing because he just doesn't exist on the internet. Of
course not.
There's no shoot interviews really he's done. There's no shoot interviews really about him. You know what I mean? Like, he's just out there doing stuff.
Yeah, of course. But also, like, he's Gene Anderson, so like Ole already talks on behalf of him, and guaranteed he seems like the type of guy who's like, I don't even want to get involved in all that.
Yeah.
Pretty obviously and cleanly made a exit from wrestling, which is something we all wish we could do.
Yeah, this program has been trying to do it by saying very objectionable things about these people for years.
We tried to stop it. We tried to stop this actively, and no one's letting us. Post the AWA.
I want to say this right now. The AWA, noted place where Vern Gagne made all the money and you don't. Ole went out of his way to be like, within my first 3 or 4 days of working in the AWA, I made $350.
I fucking hate him.
He's hate great. Him. So, here's the thing. Reading the research, and then I went on a bit of a spree because and by the way, I have to apologize. I'm so sorry to the listeners. I feel that my preparation and abilities on this program have been waning in the last weeks because I just had a bunch of distractions and I wasn't focused. Not this week, ladies and gentlemen. We got this one, and then Patreon is Kenta, which is the most fucking weird thing to go from I hate this man more than anything in the world to like, I think Kenta is just a sweet boy who's like, I would like to be a wrestler. And then adversity got in the way, and he didn't let it stop him.
Is Kenta Kobashi, by the way, and also he might be. It's so funny because they're the opposite people, but I still would say this, and I don't want to be Jim Cornette, but if you divorce who this man is, Ole Anderson is a very good wrestler and a very good promo.
He's a very good wrestler, and also I would say he's an incredibly good territorial booker. Like he listens, he uses all of the different skills of the places he goes to. Like look at the Georgia and.
At one point, he's booking multiple territories at the same time.
And he only starts getting criticism once he gets to the Black Scorpion. Bear in mind that is about 10 years worth of booking. How he worked with Jim Barnett was terrible, but again, he was brought in by Barnett and Georgia to win a territorial war. He knows he is a wartime booker. He knows how to promote big man, gruff, realistic looking wrestling. The problem is that the 80s changes so quickly, and his literal Achilles heel would be the other guy has a strong, smashed over baby face that is designed for television and for the movies. And now Ole doesn't know how to combat that.
His Achilles heel is fun.
Yeah. His
wrestling.
Only weakness
let's be honest.
Even
the lower card, like even the heels started to be fun. Like Piper. All these guys are fun. Ric Flair, fun. And who was it we were doing who was like, I think Ole was the guy who, because I was listening to some about Ole. And honestly, I kind of agree with him. His problem with Flair was he's not a heel. He's clearly trying to be a babyface. He's trying to do both things at the same time. I think
right.
Like he's right. And the counterpoint to that for me would be like, Ric Flair's an asshole, and he's being an asshole, but he's just so good at it. Like, there's no way you can watch Ric Flair against Magnum TA and be like, "Oh, I'm going to cheer for Magnum TA," because Magnum TA is just like, "I'm saying what you think. I think you like."
Yeah.
But I just want to lick a toilet seat with some powder on it, baby.
You be Magnum TA, I'll be Ric Flair back and forth. No, you be Magnum TA ordering a sandwich, I'll be Ric Flair ordering a sandwich.
Okay, cool. Bacon, mayonnaise. And if it goddamn gets near any of that spicy yellow mustard, I'll have your tits cut off, you stupid whore.
Woo! You do $80, $100, $200. Sandwiches are for women. Woo! Actually, knife edge chops a garbage can, walks into the middle of traffic, gets into a taxi cab, someone else in it, goes to bar.
Gets hit by a car, pretends he's okay, does the flare flop in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
And Magnum TA is just like eating his weird sandwich, being like, which one of you whores wants to suck a cowboy's dick?
Yeah, which one of you would like to know what it's like to go to sleep at a reasonable hour after I have 2 cans of tuna?
Hey, I've got the sandwich so toasted, it's so crunchy, none of the sandwich is in my mouth. It's just all on the sidewalk.
I think you should know I'm Magnum TA, and that car accident was done on purpose by the other wrestlers just to get me to wake up.
I should have, just to get me to wake up, I should have, Magnum TA, probably a nice guy. We did an episode on him. I forget wholeheartedly about all of it.
He was a nice man, but the one thing we detected is that his promos, for some reason, always took a very odd homoerotic turn.
No, there was that one where it's like, I'm going to come on you like no one's ever come on you before.
Yes,
there's that one.
I'm saying, but then we discover another one where it's going, and that's because I'm a big man. Like, I remember there were 2. He was just, like, you're just like, Magnum T, progressive.
It was that weird time in wrestling where it's like all the bookers were super homophobic, like Ole Anderson, but we're also like, I mean, he's a babyface. Look how fucking hot he is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've said it, I'm Ole Anderson. Let me say this right now. As long as you're the one penetrating the asshole, that is straight.
And I'll say this right now. I am a dangerously toxic man, but you know what? If it looks good, yum for Ole. That's what's tattooed on me.
I would like if Ole turned out he was just a very progressive when it came to sex, but like very regressive when it came to race.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, this is the Rock Ole Anderson. And whether your relationship is monogamous or, of course, polyamorous, the thing to remember is that you want to have as many loads dropped on your chest, face, and feet
in a given day just to make everything seem interesting. Oh, sure, I'm mean to everyone I meet, but I worship the pussy. I'll worship the labia, left or right side. Oh, I'll just rub a part of my body onto your pussy until you go, which is the sign you're about to squirt. Squirt. By the way, you want to know how you get blood from a stone? You cover the Rock Ole Anderson in sweet, sweet pussy squirt.
I think that, well, there's a good chance. Well, Ole Anderson is probably, we'll get into the fact that he, while working as a booker for WCW, bedded one of like the higher ups.
He certainly did.
Jim Hurd.
Yeah. Yeah. Jim Hurd.
Hey, why don't we get out of these wet clothes into a nice medium pizza?
Yeah, they were arguing. You know, in sitcoms, they always have that scene where two characters are arguing and then they make out. They were doing that about the Ding Dongs and then just full fucked in front of Tony.
Yeah. They full did it. Did it.
Shivani just went and got himself a bunch of popcorn chicken from a KFC and watched.
Well, he went, I don't have a condom. And then Ole's like, I'll just keep my pants on. And then he's like, that checks out. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's good. So after, by the way, I want you to know we're still in the first year of Ole's career.
No, because we're gonna talk about now when he left the AWA and Stu Hart, dressed in a full suit, just showed up in the shower with Ole Anderson.
I don't believe it at all.
This is one Ole clearly made up thing. Maybe Ole is just in he just does a bunch of glue. Like he's just always sniffing so much glue.
And he's like, I'll tell you what happened there. There was the horse from Zorro, first of all. That was my first match, was against the horse from Zorro. And then I was in the Four Horsemen when they were real horses.
Every time I show up a building, first thing I do, go to a hardware store, get a tub of glue and 4 cans of spray paint. Huff the spray paint. That's the appetizer. And then you want to, of course, move on to some hardcore glue sniffing.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a glue sniffer. It's such a weird asshole addiction.
How about this? How about I go to the paint store, get some samples, and that's me sorted for the night. Yum, 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 paint. Oh, yeah.
I mean, it would make sense.
All right, Rick, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go Broadway with Steamboat, but the important thing is I'm going to huff an entire liter of glue.
But I'm going to be fucking ripped on paint the whole time. I won't know this from that.
I'm going to look like one of those living statues, but also like I just had a bunch of milk.
So they form.
The idea that Ole Anderson was a glue sniffer is one of the funniest jags you've ever come up with on this program.
A jag, a jabe.
It explains everything, by the way. Just like, why was Ole so mean? They were out of paint that day. Why did Ole go home? He heard a Home Depot opened up in Atlanta. Finally, options for my sniffing.
I will say this though, as far as what the NWA and frankly, this is another thing I am thinking Kobashi have in common is they are both not ripped, but just barrel-chested men who are perfect for wrestling. 6'1", 270 of just fucking, they're both houses. Also, Gene Anderson looks like me going to the shower, and Ole Anderson is just a thick boy.
Also, him and Kenta both have barely no neck. Like it's one of those things where they basically are shoulder
all chest.
To head. Yeah, it's just basically like, it's all chest, nubbly little legs, and I guarantee just like they just leg day for them is squats.
Kenta has gorgeous legs. I will say that. Ole Anderson's doing something. I don't know.
No, Ole Anderson has a quality dumper. We can shit on this man all we want, but his caboose is loose Dylan God.
I think he's like, it's such a weird thing because you can't, as a wrestler, you're like, oh, that guy's really good. And then you hear his opinions. Like, I guess he's just was playing himself and thought it was real.
Ole Anderson just also clearly, like if his career had been moved up 10 years, he would be the Jim Cornette of right now. Like he would also, if also Fox News existed, I guarantee Ole Anderson would have appeared on it like way more. Welcome to Bill O'Reilly, and now for the section of the show known as, whoa, this guy takes it too far. Let's go to Ole the Rock Anderson. Let me say this about all women. They should be shaved, tattooed, and categorized. I'm Ole Anderson.
And we have we have Sean Hannity to disagree with someone for the first time ever on this network.
Now, please welcome to the program Ole Anderson, a man who's running for president of the United States on the ticket that all people that vape should be quote unquote 9/11.
But here's the fun thing about the territories: the Minnesota Wrecking Crew is together for over a decade, and
you're telling me the Toronto-based sketch group involving a guy named Nug and Ron Sparks was wrestling this far back?
Yeah. And they win several titles. They move from Mid-Atlantic to Japan to GCW, and they just kind of rinse and repeat that cycle.
What was Ole Anderson like in Japan? Like, I guarantee there's a whole country of them. It was a guarantee.
Why do they have hamburgers with fish in them that are small? I hate that.
Excuse me, you're not supposed to have buildings. That's an American thing. Excuse me.
He just kept on yelling Pearl Harbor at people for sure. He would only talk to people from America who would then have to.
What is weird, though, by the way, is that Ole Anderson was very sympathetic to the rise of communism in China. He read Mao's Little Red Book, and although he disagreed with the overall thesis, he found some of the points intriguing and interesting. Ole Anderson, a complicated man.
But there's some good stuff he does once he gets out of the Minnesota Wrecking Crew. He has a feud with Thunderbolt Patterson, and that leads him to forming the team with Arn Anderson, where it's one of the weirdest heel promos of all time, where he's like, Thunderbolt, I have no problem with you. It's just that this guy is better than you as a tag team partner, and the next time I see you, you should watch your back. It's the most straightforward, I'm a heel and I am turning on you that I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And then
and it's great.
Yeah, and then that leads to the Andersons against Manny Fernandez and Thunderbolt, and obviously they lose because it's Thunderbolt Patterson, and Ole's going to be booked better than Thunderbolt Patterson for reasons we won't get into.
Yeah, for some real Charlottesville political reasons.
For some reasons.
This is also, Ole is starting to be much more of a presence behind the scenes in all of the territories he's involved in. He's at least giving suggestions. He also is very clearly, one of the advantages of being a wrestler at this time is if you're just a loudmouth asshole who can back up some of your claims, evidently you just do better.
Yeah, and like I said, there's a lot of stuff to like where he's so far up the card, but also not a world champion level talent. And he's clearly very comfortable. If you're looking at it from a booking perspective, he's clearly very comfortable working with people because he's worked with someone for over a decade with no problems.
Yeah, it's also that thing of it's clearly bitterness, because one of those things where at this time, Ole was clearly a racist, and you can tell that because every wrestler who isn't white is like, he's just a bad guy. Like that, which is wrestler code for, you know, the word you're not about to say about the people of my genetic heritage? That's what was written on my checks.
Well, also actively more racist than Bill Watts, because Bill Watts, I mean, not to compare apples to apples, but like clearly Ernie Ladd was an accommodating man because he hung out with Bill Watts, and Ernie Ladd got in like fights with Ole Anderson, beat up Ole Anderson.
Imagine it being said, who is that the idea that the amount of people can say, oh man, give me that reasonable Bill Watts as opposed to that asshole Ole Anderson. Like it's just
crazy.
No one likes Ole Anderson. Jim Cornette is the closest person you can find to liking Ole Anderson, and he's mostly like, Ole called me a piece of shit, but then said there were worse pieces of shit, so I'm not as big a piece of shit.
It's so crazy that he would just like, how does this man think he's in charge? Like, it's one of those things where
here's how big of an asshole Ole Anderson is. Try and find out what Ole Anderson's finishing move was.
Oh, I know what it was. It was an armbar. It was a rest hold. It's what we now know as a rest hold, and I guarantee that's why he hated new wrestling, is because everyone did his finishing move. And that's what, remember, you know how it was like, oh, the Andersons always pick a limb?
Yes.
That's because his move was the armbar, and it was like, watching a Gene Anderson and Ole Anderson match is crazy because it's like Gene Anderson's big setup for Ole's finisher is he goes off the top with a knee to the guy's arm, and it's supposed to be, oh man, his arm's incapacitated, and Ole got the tap, and it's like,
I can't believe that Gordon Solie gets credit for being the greatest wrestling commentator ever. Whenever he commentates something like that, which you could make that exciting, being like, well, I gotta understand that's the weight of a human being coming down on your arm. Hello, folks. I just want to let you know that the vein that I usually inject pure pharmaceutical cocaine to my penis has scabbed over. So I'm going to be a bit of low energy today. Now, let's go to the ring where Ole Anderson has put George Scott in an armbar for the last 45 minutes. Teddy Long, the referee, has tried to stop the match, but Ole has said some words. Now, I'm aware of what they could mean, but I've never heard them used in such a manner before.
But it's so funny, and I know it is a long time, but it's so funny to watch like Ole Anderson in the 70s, where it's like, you're right, Gordon Solie being like, and now we got the Andersons here for an interview, and then Ole comes in, he's like, hello, Gordon, and he's like, see, we hate the Andersons because they raise their voice slightly. Yeah. Never should raise your voice. And then 30 years later, it's like Kane kicking a woman in the stomach, and she has an abortion because of the kick of the stomach, and everyone's like, nah, whatever. Like that, go from like slight voice raise to boot woman in stomach.
I know it's basically like,
sorry, it was Snitsky. Don't kill me.
Yeah. Anderson, like Ole's not wrong in that wrestling does get ridiculous, but his reasons, he's like, it's ridiculous now. A guy that's not named Ole Anderson that isn't me making more money than me, Ole Anderson? What the hell?
Well, I mean, we're skipping way ahead here, but there is an amazing interview with Ole Anderson where he claims that Vince McMahon is a failure because he can't draw in Georgia anymore.
Oh my God, yes. Well, so basically, Ole Anderson.
We should take a break actually because we're going nuts here. I mean, it's been over 30 minutes. The thing is, there's a thing to say how long we've been doing, and it only shows up once we've rendered the recording, which is really, really good, right? So what we're gonna do is take a break, and then we'll be back. More. Oh my God, we're back. So the
main thing, I gotta fucking say this, Dylan. I'm gonna say it, is the 80s Ole Anderson is basically like 70s Ole Anderson he's like kind of this dust wonder kid. He's broken into the business. He is a very good mid-card tag team wrestler. He's a very good main event tag team wrestler. He is a very good booker. He's become sort of one of the like archangels of the NWA, a great protector. And it's sort of like he got the ego of 80s cocaine abuse without the cocaine, and is literally like, I don't need some sort of Peter Pumper to tell me what to do. Time to move Burnett out of the way and get those two Briscoes away from me. You working on a body shop? You touching anything that's a body that could be a man is bad. You're bad, Briscoe brothers. And then
answer me this question. You're fixing a car, and there's a seat in there, and a man's been in that seat. That is too gay for me.
Yeah, that man's buttocks has touched that seat. That seat should be burned.
If a man has had, wait a minute, you're holding men's jeans, and these are designed to hold a man's penis.
No. Every time I go to a movie, I have to see it in a brand new movie theater because I will not sit in a seat that a man has sat in. Also, I will not sit next to a man.
But he's a champion.
I have been kicked off many airplanes because I refuse to sit next to any human man that is considered what did my best friend Ultimate Warrior call it? A queering. That's what that is. I'm
Well, this is the interesting thing is that this guy wins. He's won world tag titles, but as far as singles titles, he literally only has the NWA Georgia Television Championship and the Macon Heavyweight Championship. So he's in these feuds with Thunderbolt Patterson, as we mentioned before, Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair. So he's at the top of the card, but he loses all the feuds at the top of the card.
And this is something that goes to Eric Bischoff's point. And by the way, Eric Bischoff and Ole Anderson is fascinating because they essentially are like they are the exact opposites in every way.
Well, Ole could be a reason why Bischoff got that job because he sold himself as a TV guy, and that's how he got that job. Right?
I think Ole is definitely part of the reason that Bischoff got that job, and is also part of the reason why Bischoff had to get rid of Ole very quickly. Is that Ole is pretty savvy. Like Ole is able to survive a lot longer than most of these guys, and he stays in. So think about this: he is part of the brass of the NWA under Dusty. And he is basically the last man standing until they get to fucking Eric Bischoff. And Eric Bischoff is the last guy to sort of expunge all the old NWA guys out of WCW. That's way long. That's so long. If you're Ole Anderson of holding on in a corporate, imagine Ole Anderson in a corporate environment. Ole, you need to validate your parking. You have to stop just physically attacking the parking attendants when they ask for money. It's free. You just have to bring your ID. I only have one idea. That's a folded American flag so people know I'm American.
I think that Ole, it must have been, the only thing I can think of is that he survived that long because he just wasn't wearing a cowboy hat and he didn't actively threaten the other employees like Bill Watts did.
I also guarantee
the bar was probably set so low by Bill Watts where it's like, well, he doesn't release livestock into the office, so let's keep
Bill
him.
Watts constantly was pissing off of his balcony in Atlanta. Like, here's the thing with Bill Watts is he's a fucking dick. He's a dick and a pedophile employer. Here's the one thing that I will say about the Dark Side of the Ring Grizzly Smith, which they skirted, which is like, oh, no one seemed to know anything except for what is known about Bill Watts is he was in everyone's business. And I guarantee Bill Watts was like, what is Grizz up to? Oh, with that information, I can pay him less. Very good.
Yes. Oh, that is. But also, it's like I think where Jim Cornette gets in a lot of trouble with how he talks about wrestling is this belief of private life and professional life are completely separate, and that's no longer a thing.
Yeah, that doesn't exist.
2021, exactly. 2021, your private life and your professional life are not different. You say something online, obviously, you have some fucked up opinion, then you're totally culpable for that opinion versus the 80s where it was so far the other way where it's like, does he buy children from overseas? Yes. Is he a good Zamboni driver? Also, yes, he's staying.
Yeah. Like, it's again, wrestling. There was a time when wrestling, like, yeah, okay, sure, he is David Duke. But if you had it,
and Ole really put that to the test because Tito Santana would be like, he'd be like, you're losing tonight, and then call me a slur.
Yeah. Tito Santana was like, let me tell you how hard it was to be in the NWA. It's Easter. The phone rings. Ole Anderson just says all of the words that former President Trump used to think to my kid and then hangs up the phone.
Yes, and that's why everyone was like, wow, Vince McMahon was so regressive in his storylines. Why did guys like that stay? It's like, because the other option was, you are not playing a matador, but we are treating you horribly.
Like one of the bulls. We're just going to have a guy stab you in the testicles in the middle of the ring.
Yeah.
Here's the craziest thing about Vince McMahon is the most progressive of all of the wrestling territory owners. I guarantee you Jerry Jarrett right now is talking about QAnon to someone in a diner in Memphis.
I don't know. I'm fresh off reading both of Jim Ross's books, so I do kind of think.
How about you mention that again? You've mentioned that the last 8 episodes in a row. You're just like, oh, well, as an expert in Jim Ross.
2 of them.
Dylan, this is a wrestling podcast. If
2
you don't think
books.
I've read the first one, I haven't read the second.
2 books. The second one is very sad.
Because that's the one about his wife dying, and then
that is the one where he talks about how sad he is that Jan died, and how he's like, if it wasn't for AEW, I probably would have killed myself. And then that really is like, anytime you're like, Jim Ross doesn't even know these guys' names, I just feel terrible. Like, people stop messaging that grieving man that.
I know. And also, by the way, and I watched this on Double or Nothing, which is he's learned how to commentate around that, which is he gets Excalibur to say the names, and then he just responds, and it's very good. Like, here's the thing with Jim Ross. It's like, oh, he wasn't perfect at this completely different job. Yeah. It took him about 2 years because I like dipped in and out, but he's like, he's back, baby. And yeah, he looks a little tired, but it's like, yeah, man, you know how much you have to drink? Like, I would
legit. You know that man is like he probably smokes 2 packs a day, and he's fucking wasted when he does that show.
Yeah. Let me put it this way. I broke my shoulder and elbow and got a divorce within 6 weeks of each other, and a bunch of other really fucked up shit happened within the span of about 4 months. And let me say this: if I was the voice of a wrestling promotion, I would seem a little distant. What I've been through is like 0.0001% of one day my wife drove her Vespa to check the mail, while I was at the store driving back, I saw that Vespa on fire and thought, well, I hope Jan's okay. Not realizing that crunching noise was me wife.
Jesus Christ. And Ole Anderson sent a thank you card to the guy who
ran over Jan.
No, it's a very sad story. And if Jim,
hello, Jim. Jim, is your wife Jan there? It's Ole. Ole, Jan's dead. Okay. Calls back. Jim, it's Ole Anderson. Is Jan there? Ole, I said Jan's dead. I know. I just like hearing saying it. Ha 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 ha. Ole Anderson prank. Ole Anderson prank. Ole Anderson prank is going to Reed's house, giving him heroin. Ole Anderson.
Jesus Christ.
Ole Anderson prank. Let's go to Kansas and change the clip for the gear. Ole Anderson prank. Ole Anderson.
When did? Okay, well, two things, I suppose. What did Ole Anderson say when he met Vince and Linda McMahon shortly after the GCW purchase?
He pointed at one of them and went, fuck you. And then he pointed at the other one and went, fuck you. And claims that that's the reason for the heat for years. Here's the actual truth. They never met in person. Vince doesn't know who Ole Anderson is. He just thinks that's Arn's nickname.
No, he knows who Ole Anderson is because that's why he was Ken Kennedy and not Ken Anderson. And because Vince said, I fucking hate the last name Anderson.
Oh, that's so... No, but I thought he was Ken Kennedy because he was going to be Vince's bastard son.
Well, they named him Kennedy because they were like, Vince hated him because his name was Ken Anderson. And then they were like, why don't we name him Kennedy? And since that's Vince McMahon's been a name, and he's like, no, that's good. I like that.
Yeah. What else?
What an easy man to please. How about this? His last name's Kennedy, and he has diarrhea. Oh yeah, yeah. He's got. He gets up there and he poops his little pants. Can we have him little pants? Yeah. Okay.
He likes AC/DC and diarrhea. This man's gonna be
great. He doesn't sound bad.
Jim Ross describes the first time he drove with Vince McMahon is he got in the car, turned on AC/DC really loud,
and just started farting. And drove so fucking fast.
It's such a good, and every time he would, before he farted, he'd make sure the windows were rolled up. Here's the thing. I horrifically disagree with Vince McMahon in every way. I know we would get along very well. Like, I'd just be like,
oh yeah, it'd be an old school bro down.
Yeah. Banana.
That happened to me.
John, about the time you shit on a wall.
I was walking with the child, and I saw two teenagers, and they were probably about to get into a fight, and I stopped, and I was like, "This is sick." And then I realized I'm of the age I should probably stop it, not be like, "Yo, let's go, boys, let's go, let's do this." Anyway, Ole Anderson. Did you know he was in the Four Horsemen?
What?
Yeah, crazy.
Four Horsemen starts and ends with the Paul Roma era.
And I do think that Arn Anderson is all the good parts of Ole Anderson, just without the fact that he's Ole Anderson.
Yeah. Arn Anderson.
I think that's why everyone loves Ole Anderson, because they get to love Arn Anderson for how good a wrestler he is and how an amazing a promo he is.
And also, Arn Anderson is just and he's my favorite wrestler of all time. I think he might be the most underserved in-ring technician ever. That guy is a fucking machine. Both in the ring, and you ask his wife what happens. Let's put it this way, she still can't sit on bar stools because she has been stretched.
Oh, and also Ole is the reason. Ole is the thing. The one good thing he did in wrestling, I think you can say unequivocally, is before Ole Anderson, Arn Anderson would always just wear these weird hats into the ring. He would wear like a fedora because he was like clearly uncomfortable with balding. And then Ole Anderson was like, we have to be proud of who we are.
Is that true that he used to do this? I don't believe you.
Watch the first match where Ole helps Arn beat Manny Fernandez, and Arn is wearing a fucking safari fedora, but just like nothing else. You know what I mean? Like nothing. Yeah. It just seems like a guy going to the bathroom in the middle of the night, but he just makes sure to put on his safari hat. It's very uncomfortable.
There might be spiders.
Well, how am I supposed to block out the sun?
Yeah, exactly. What were you? Well, don't you take a shit inside? Not at night. At night, you have to shit outside.
It's nighttime. Get the breeze on your hog.
Wait a minute. You're shitting inside during the night?
Okay, Mr. France.
Yeah. I didn't realize that this entire house was in Europe.
So apparently Ole thinks that Dusty Rhodes came up with the entire thing for the Four Horsemen. Here are the people he liked in the Four Horsemen. All right, first of all, he thinks he made Arn. God damn it. Tully was okay, and he hated Rick.
Of course. Who doesn't hate Rick, though?
Of course he made, yeah. I mean, honestly, Ole Anderson was literally the straw that stirred the drink in this, because he was related to Arn in storyline, and Ric Flair was also related to Arn and Ole. He was their cousin. That was the thing they used to string it together.
Yeah, and it was this odd thing of like, and they're the Minnesota Wrecking Crew in a way.
Yeah, they made them the Minnesota Wrecking Crew again, and it looked like there would be a third generation with C.W. Anderson. No,
of course. Like, how could I forget about And who was C.W. Anderson's tag team partner?
Oh, it was ECW, so it was a human penis filled with heroin.
Yeah, that's right. It was New Jack's eventual faking of his own death.
No, who was ECC? Was it? Oh my God, who was it? No, that was Swinger, Diamond and Swinger. Anyway, it wasn't Johnny Swinger.
I'm looking it up because it's driving me crazy.
But C.W. Anderson had the greatest catchphrase, which was "'Cause I'm an Anderson," and that's all he said over and over again.
Because I'm an Anderson.
Well, it would just be he would do anything and he would say, "'Cause I'm an Anderson." It's like, any milk in that? No, I'm an Anderson. Sweet.
Skull Von Crush, Danny Doring, and Roadkill all worked with him a fair amount. He was C.W. Anderson was best friends with Nova.
Yeah, because they did some sort of the Extreme Horseman thing, right?
Yeah, he was managed by Louis Dangerously, who was the sign guy.
Probably Carino, because Carino was like they're going to be super old school, right?
Carino, yeah, because that was fucking great.
And he had that great match with Tommy Dreamer where they didn't use barbed wire; they used razor wire.
Oh, I know. Oh, I always wondered what the razor wire thing. That just felt like Paul Heyman was like, we got to take it up a notch.
Yeah, and it was also weird because barbed wire had pokes and razor wire laid flat, so it was kind of like, nothing happened really.
Yeah,
it's actually the guy who did the spine busters. He cut the fucking shit out of his hands.
Remember before when you had fun watching these matches? That time is over.
Yeah, that's a hardcore wrestling in Cage of Death. I would love to see Ole Anderson do Cage of Death. He'd be like, okay, good. You just shoot everybody like they're all dead. Yeah. I win.
I brought a gun. I win.
First of all, you cap the knees so they don't die as a man standing up, and then just one on the forehead, and then now you're dead.
First move if you're going to kill is, of course, turn the air conditioning up. That prevents blood flow, so you get more shots in before they realize they've been hit.
What you want to do is cut their throat.
From when I hunt, what I do is I buy a bunch of deer from a farmer, and then I just keep them in a cold room, and I stand from an elevated position and throw grenades at them.
I will say this: Ole Anderson in the Four Horsemen, great wrestler. All of them could lose, which I think is really interesting for a heel stable. Like every heel stable after this has one heavy who it's like, okay, clearly they're just building this guy.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, it's again because this was the first time and it was also organic.
That's true. That's very true. And these are also four very good wrestlers.
You know what, Dylan? You're not wrong there.
Finally, I made a point. Ole Anderson retires in 1987. That's because his son Bryant was going to become a wrestler.
He retires because no one wants to deal with him anymore, and so he has to just fucking retire. Like, let's stop fucking sucking each other's assholes here.
No, let's keep on going.
No one wants to be around him. Like,
but I mean, Ole and everyone.
I hate you. Go away.
Ole. In the original Andersons, not in the original Andersons, but Arn and Ole with Tully and Rick is probably the best.
Absolutely, it's
Four Horsemen,
one of the best stables ever. It's also the intimidatingly. What they look like is, they look like the pretty boy jocks grew up and now they rule this town.
I don't know if Ole's pretty.
No, Flair is. Flair's the pretty boy
Okay.
jock, and here's his 3 fucking heavies. In the way that the Four Horsemen kind of invented that whole mold, but it was all done organically. Everyone's spot in that you have like the crazy good wrestler, the fucking gruff older mentor, the fucking the heavy bodyguard figure, and the franchise player. Like that's basically every good faction, stable, group, gang in wrestling. It are those things. With the exception of the NWO is weirdly not that.
Well, you get Wyndham. Like Wyndham is good too, and Barry Windham in the Four Horsemen is probably Ric Flair's most
Barry
fun.
Windham is so fucking annoying. Like he's just
My dad does this, so I do it too.
Yeah, my
That's who he
dad's
is.
in jail, so I'm gonna be here.
I am here because my dad. I don't know. This would be like if he was a plumber and I'm a plumber. I don't care
Hello, my
about
name's
this.
Barry, and I'm really just living up to that name.
I'm going to have a bunch of old Milwaukees, and then I'm going to have a bunch of old Milwaukees. Boom. That's the sense of humor I like.
First, yeah. It puts
Okay.
the lotion on its skin or whatever. I've only seen that one movie.
Okay, so then Ole comes back to... Somehow Ole gets picked to... I guess it's because they were going through the old Rolodex of who was successful in the territories, and they land on Ole. But Ole becomes a booker in WCW in the late 80s and early 90s. 1990, he's the head of the booking committee. He does some really good stuff, but then he also does the Black Scorpion, which he was like, I got a plan for. And the main problem with the Black Scorpion was everything was cartoony, but like, if you're going to do cartoony stuff, first of all, they spent money on a spaceship, but not his costume, and then it ended up just being Ric Flair again.
It's also because the main issue that everyone has with the Black Scorpion, which doesn't actually get like conveyed in the reporting, is he didn't have an ending for it. That's everyone's problem with it.
Yeah, and it was Ole just doing the voice. It's really those of you who haven't seen the Black Scorpion, it's a guy threatening Sting over and over again. He lands in a spaceship.
And it just doesn't really work. Yeah, he lands in a spaceship, and it turns out it's Ric Flair, and no one was surprised.
Everyone's like, "Oh, is it probably Flair?" And they're like, "No." Oh, geez. But they had a guy signed who it was going to be, and then it just wasn't.
It was going to be Al Perez, and then Al Perez left. But it's also, it didn't make sense that it was going to be Al Perez. What I think it was Ole was like, the only way that could have worked is if it was the Ultimate Warrior. Like even in the end, who they were pointing it out it was the Ultimate Warrior, and it was probably a weird Ole prank of like, get it? I'll convince people that I got their champ, and then everyone's like, well, they won't be fooled by that. Actually, Ole, they will.
Yeah, it's a weird one where clearly he needed something, like they wanted him to be more like the WWF, and he was like, no, how about this? We get Vern Gagne in there and me, no Sting. That's the main event of every show.
Yeah, here's the main event. I just read from my financial investments. I heavily invested in Kruger Ants because I agree with that country's policies.
Yeah, exactly. Ole Anderson, here's the main event. First of all, I tell you what a good breakfast is, and then I point at everyone in the crowd and tell them where they went wrong in life.
Welcome, everyone. Here's the first thing you do is we cry. Second thing is I go to your house and shit somewhere.
If you don't have a job, then I beat you to death, and if you do have a job, I tell you to get a job that I like.
The first thing you got to remember about me, and I've never said this before, is that I am a very humble man. I am the best at being humble in the world.
Eric Bischoff took over in 94, and
all right, before we get to that, let's talk about Ole Anderson having sex with an executive at Turner. Ole Anderson supposedly, I can't tell if it was an affair or he was just bagging this gal, but Eric Bischoff, and this is Eric Bischoff now, talks so upset about this woman, there's something about wrestling people in the 90s where it's like they like the WWF with Lisa Wolf and then WCW with this one where it's like there was a woman in a pantsuit and she asked me where my goddamn requisition form was. Doesn't she know she's hurting the business?
She had the gall to not sleep with me, teeny tiny Eric B. And then she goes to Upper Decker Ole Anderson.
Yeah. she had the gall to want to be involved in what I would describe as a very hot relationship. Oh, I had her office at House Club.
Yeah, Eric Bischoff for sure likes to watch people bang, and he watched them bang, and he was like, I gotta say this, Ole Anderson as a man, hate him as a guy.
Yeah. I've never seen someone just stare at a woman and go, all the rage I have towards the wrestling business will be going to your pussy now.
Well, this is the this is the thing about Ole Anderson is that Ole Anderson and the way he lived his life in WCW in the later days, hooking up with that lady, that is what drove Diamond Dallas Page to his relationship with Kimberly.
Absolutely.
He was like, wait a minute, if it makes Ole happy, it can make anyone happy.
Yeah, because Diamond Dallas Page is like, oh my God, I can have sex with people?
Yeah, exactly. Or Ole, as he was finishing, was happy for that half second and then went back to being like, they didn't book me well in Georgia in the 70s. Then she was like, okay, we're done here.
Yeah. Oh, that woman, by the way, was deaf. That's why she was able to get along with Ole Anderson. Couldn't hear anything he said.
Yeah. She was just like, I want Arn Anderson, but with more of a body. Also, classic WCW thing. His son was employed for 7 whole years with WCW just because Ole was there too.
It's
God
so
bless
crazy
that
how
company.
long he was. That company, WCW was basically, it was a company. It was its entire business. It seems was just, do you have a relative that could use a gig? Oh, and we make wrestling too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Grizzly Smith got a job, although the WWE does that a fair amount. Like Vince gave Grizzly Smith a job because Jake worked there.
Yeah, that's true, but then they'll fire, like, they're just way more in charge of their own books. Like Jake and Grizzly Smith didn't work there for like 18 full years.
Oh yeah, no, he had a job for a minute and then they were like, oh no, this guy's a real creep, get the fuck out.
Yeah, I'm reading over a bunch of stuff at the end and just rejogging my memory, and you're totally right about him being Jim Cornette. If this guy just had someone who was okay with hearing Grandpa talk, he could really have an hour-long show every single day.
It's only because Conrad Thompson is married into the Flair family. We don't have, oh, you didn't Ole. And
Ole, you didn't know, and then just you give him one wrestler and he tells you what, and then he's always confused, and you can't air the Thunderbolt Patterson episodes. You can't air the Tito Santana episodes.
You couldn't air any episode that like all that guy's entire podcast would be live in the moment because Conrad would be like, I don't know how, but if this is re-aired,
nothing. Yeah,
like
no live stream.
You're planning the storming of January 6th. Well,
the Patreon would be
isolate the officers. You want to know how you book? First things first, the former president gives a speech about how he won the presidency. That's what I like to call the inciting incident. Holy, where's this going? You'll see. It ends in Bruiser Brody becoming the Texas Heavyweight Championship and Nancy Pelosi gutted like a pig.
What's the best thing about Ole Anderson, John?
He was consistent he came into the wrestling business bitter and upset, and that's the way he left it, baby.
Yeah, I think the best thing about him is somehow, some way, this man had an exactly 20-year career and left with nothing, no wanting to come back. He was completely fulfilled or not. Like, it's crazy that
It's amazing.
the most bitter man in wrestling is like, oh, I think I'm done here. This has been my time. But no one else can do that. Like Brian Knobbs is still being like, I could be the IC champ, but Ole Anderson's like, no, it's fine.
Shot and I could be the X Division champion. All
I could die in the ring
to work at the company. And
but I think that's, I mean, also we should mention Ole Anderson very much still alive. There's so many shoot interviews out there if you want to drown yourself in.
Also, there's a video of Eric Bischoff correcting Ole Anderson's shoot interview, and it's the best ever.
Ole Anderson is so unlikable. He makes Eric Bischoff likable. That is how
I love it. I love it so much. Go.
Yeah, anyone you put up against that man,
Dylan, go and watch it. It's fucking fun.
He's the best. I think the worst thing about Ole Anderson, we can come to a consensus here, is him as a man.
Yeah, I think everything else about him as a human being is real negative.
he doesn't give you anything to sink your teeth into. Like, he isn't an actual member of the clan, but he just has their beliefs. He just doesn't believe in organizations.
Yeah, it's always one of those things where it's like, oh, just.
He's like, the clan's too close to a union. I hate unions.
Yeah. If a canker sore in your mouth was a person that also had bad breath, it's Ole Anderson.
So that's Ole Anderson, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. Next week, we'll be back with, who do you want to do, John, off the top of your head?
Eric Watts.
Eric Watts. Done. We're going to do Eric Watts somehow.
After the year of McMahon, I only like doing fun ones. And Eric
Watts apparently came back in TNA and was very good.
Yeah, everyone loved him in TNA.
Everyone, all the nerds were like, me. Here's me.
That's
Tougher.
a very good impression of you.
Yeah, Eric Watts will be next week. You can join us on Patreon, patreon.com/WrestleReview, where if you give us enough money, we will mail you some loads. And if you give us less money, we won't.
If you go to Redbubble, you can find our merch. Get yourself a Wrestler Review shower curtain.
Yeah, and if you go to RedTube, you can find a bunch of stuff there too.
You can find probably a bunch of Dylan Gott stand-up clips.
Yeah. Yo.
And also
Redbubble
Twitch stream. John Hastings Comedy on Twitch every day at Sunday through Thursday at 10 p.m. UK time, 2 p.m. Pacific time, all other times in between. You check out my social media, The John Hastings, and go buy our albums at Bandcamp, wherever good albums are sold, and make sure to tweet at CD Baby. You guys are fucking losers, and I hate you.
We're at Wrestler Review on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Dylan Gott on every social media platform there is. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. I don't know. Type my name into Facebook. It's easy to find. Redbubble.com/people/Wrestler Review. And if you buy some merch, take a picture. We'll post it on our goddamn fucking shitty fucking social meds. We love you so much. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.